Are we ready to go, moms? Yes. How you guys feeling?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, this is, I think, probably the first ever Mama Bear border tour that we've ever had along the border. And I want to thank the media that has shown up today. I really appreciate you being here. I want to thank these wonderful, beautiful moms behind us, these moms who take care of their babies and are very concerned about the direction our country is going. A lot of people say, why are you here? Why bring moms down here? Usually politicians come down and meet with other politicians and get their cameras out and pictures taken. But you know, in our Mama Bear coalition, our Moms for Kari coalition, our Latinos for Kari coalition, we talk all the time about the problems that are facing our country, our communities, our neighborhoods, and ultimately our families. And this one keeps coming up. And I think one thing that I have in common with the beautiful women behind me is that we're saying, when is the government going to finally stop this madness at the border? It's affecting our families. The crime in our neighborhoods, it's affecting that. We've seen crime rising. Many of it can be due to what's happening at our border. We've seen the fact that people are coming from many different countries, more than I think 160 or 70 countries from around the world. We know that dangerous people are coming in. They're coming in from countries that support terrorism, and there's a very strong likelihood that we already have terror cells that are here inside in our homeland. And one of the hardest things is the moms who are behind me and the moms who couldn't be here today, who have lost a son or a daughter, a sister or brother, to the fentanyl crisis. Fentanyl is a weapon of mass destruction. It's pouring across our border every single day. And the hardest thing for me on the campaign trail has been hearing the painful, painful stories of mothers and fathers who've lost a child. You know, we all have dreams for our kids. I have amazing dreams for my children. They're 19 and 20. And to think that at any moment I could wake up to the horror that these mothers who've lost a daughter or son to fentanyl poisoning is just unbearable. All those dreams we have for our kids vanish, and we don't know what they would have accomplished. We don't get to see our grandchildren. We don't get to see the future that our children would have helped make. So it's just painful all the way around. We have angel moms who've lost sons or daughters because of an incident involving somebody here illegally. These are deaths that don't need to happen. These are deaths that our federal government is complicit in, and it's got to stop. The mothers of this country demand that this problem be solved, and it starts with leadership out of Washington, D.C., recognizing that they are part of the problem and shutting this illegal activity down that is destroying our communities. Now, there's a couple of things that I think are very frustrating as we watch video, and I know Ben has done amazing work covering the border. Many of you have. It's so frustrating for families who are struggling right now in Joe Biden's economy. We can't afford the food that we used to afford. We go to the grocery store, and what we used to be able to afford that would give us 3 bags of groceries is now 1 bag. We try to fill up our tank, and we used to be able to fill it up, and now we can only put 1/4 of a tank in. These are real economic issues, and we're watching people come across our border illegally from, as I said, more than 160 different countries, and immediately they're given a phone, brand new phone, airfare ticket to wherever they want to go. Some of the cities, they're staying in very nice hotels. They're given health care, and they're given a court date 12 years from now. We may not have a country in 12 years. I don't think we will if we don't start having a government that stops being part of the problem and gives us real solutions to solve these problems. And so I want to talk, I want you to talk and listen to some of the people who we've invited to speak. We're going to have Mayor Maldonado from Nogales speak here in just a moment. They've got a real crisis on their hands because in about a couple weeks, a lot of the funding is going to stop. You might be saying, look, I have been here for how many minutes and we haven't seen anybody run across the border, because the border wall does work, by the way. And what we see here is processing, and a lot of people come into Nogales that are picked up in other areas where we've seen the people that Ben has covered running across the border. They come in, they're processed, and they take buses and move on out. They're taken to airports, they're taken to cities all across this country. Every city is now a border city. And in about 2 weeks, the money that is allowing for people to come in and then move on out, that's going to stop. And so this city, this small town of about, what, 22,000? 22,500? 22,500 people is going to start seeing a lot more of the people coming here illegally remaining here. And this is not a town that can absorb that problem. So I'd like you to welcome Mayor Jorge Maldonado to talk a little bit about that. And Mayor, if you can kind of just lay out the crisis that you have and speak right into that mic.
Okay, thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Ms. Lake, and thank you everybody for coming down. Yes, this is a big situation for our community. You know, we were never expected to handle this. The way it's being handled, it goes through Pima County, emergency management in Nogales, or through Santa Cruz County is the connection through Pima County, and also through Casalitas. They have the communication with both CBP and Border Patrol to control the street releases. The street releases, they're before Washington made that call in late September to take away Customs Patrol and send them to Border Patrol to help them support the processing. They were getting released at the station, at the Border Patrol station. These people have been here, you know, not just the last 2-3 months. They've been here for the last 6-8 months. However, since they weren't being released in the street, nobody really recognized that or realized that. But now, since Washington made that decision without even, you know, communicating to the community, it hurt us because it shut down half of our regular tourist lanes, traffic lanes in cars, which is what the city of Nogales depends on. You know, we got students, we got workers, we got family members that live in Nogales, Mexico, that's 450,000 that Nogales, Arizona with 22.5 depend on. We depend on them, you know, bringing their kids and families to the doctors, to schools, and then go to our local stores and do their shopping. You know, it's a relationship that we've had all along. Now, our communication with both mayors, Jim and in Nogales, Sonora, the U.S. consulate, Ms. Michelle Ward in Nogales, Mexico, the Mexican consulate here, Mr. Bice, in Nogales, Arizona, and myself, and Border Patrol and CBP and emergency management has been tremendous. I think we've done a great job. I think, you know, a lot of people don't realize that we are a very safe border. Now, this situation that has been brought upon us of the release of the migrants, up to now, because we had the funding, and unfortunately, it's funding that we're using with illegals, and you know, we could have used it with legal people. You know, this funding apparently, as of yesterday, is going to expire at the end of November. Now, that's going to cost, you know, we're going from 8 to 9 buses a day that they're using right now to 2 to 3. That's going to cost 250 to 300 migrants that are not going to have a ride to their destinations, which have been either Tucson or Phoenix, and then Casalitas sends them out to where they're going to stay. You know, Casalita is dropping from 1,300 intakes to 700. So all that's going to be a little trail that's going to hurt our city. You know, I made a call last night to everybody in state, federal, that I could reach out. Talked to Ms. Lake last night and told her the situation. You know, we got to have the funding to bust these people out. These people don't even realize where they're at. They don't even know Nogales existed. Like she said, some are being bused from Lukeville, from the areas in Cochise, because we have one of the biggest processing or border patrol stations in the country. So, you know, as far as Nogales, Nogales feeds the country. Nogales, a lot of people don't know that the produce industry, I'm going to say a good 70–80% of the produce that you guys and everybody eats in the country comes through Nogales. You know, so that's going to affect our border crossing. You know, luckily we do have a great security at the border, where this border has captured the most fentanyl of all the other borders combined. You know, all that is amazing what our people do, and yet, you know, I think we could do better. So, you know, thank you for this opportunity. Nogales, again, is a safe city, and I hope people realize that, yes, we can handle these migrants to stay here. Thank you.
Really quickly, talk about what we just had a conversation where these people coming across from all these different countries don't speak the language. They don't speak Spanish or English.
Yes.
And it's been a very difficult.
Google Translate has been a miracle for us, because, you know, these people have come, you know, from so many countries that, you know, without Google Translate, not even emergency management, nobody would be able to translate with them. You know, like I said, they don't speak Spanish or English, and it's very hard to find out the languages they do speak. I think we're down to 16 or 17 different languages that they speak.
And you're seeing people from where now coming across, as far away as?
What was it, Chief? Senegal, Africa, Asia, you know, all over the country, all over the world.
And you've only been the mayor not that long.
I've been the mayor since January 3rd.
But you've been involved in the city. And
I've been involved. I was a councilman for 6 years prior to being mayor, and then but I'm born and raised here in Nogales.
2019 was the problem this bad?
No, you know, we didn't have this migrant problem back then. You know, the valve, like I said, this valve's got to close. The country can't take these migrants here. This valve's got to close, and we got to tell the you know, federal government we cannot accept more migrants. I think we're not seeing the big flush, but the country is.
Do you think that this can go on much longer?
No, I hope not. I don't think the country could take it.
Well, thank you for telling America what is going on here in Nogales. I think this is an area we don't hear from very often. Thank you so much, Mayor.
Thank you.
This is an area that we don't hear a lot from, because, you know, we're covering when we see people pouring across the border. And thankfully, these images are being brought to us from people like Ben and many of the other journalists here are covering that story. But those people are going somewhere. And now if they start staying in border towns like this, it's going to really affect the people of this town. Like you said, the federal government is hurting legal commerce, and they're actually supporting illegal activity. And so these businesses that rely on this business that comes across the border legally are suffering, because the money is being poured into processing people who are pouring across illegally, and the money is now it's being taken away from the port of entry where people are coming in legally. Next, I'd like you to hear from a very brave woman. One of the hardest things, I think, for any mom is to see these children being trafficked across the border. We know the drugs are coming across. We know humans are being smuggled. But the child trafficking, I know I'm not the only one that lays awake at night thinking about what happens to these children. What kind of a world are they being trafficked into? It's children, child trafficking, sex trafficking, and women are being sex trafficked. And we have a very brave woman who wants to tell her story today. Her name is Cindy Spencer, and she was sex trafficked across the border, the very border that we're standing on. So Cindy, you want to come up and talk to us? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
So trafficking can happen as simply as hearing someone saying, I can change your life. And I think what people need to realize is this misconception of the American dream is what's causing people to risk their lives and risk their children's lives in order to come over to the U.S. Awareness is one thing, but really being able to highlight what it's like for people coming across, what it's like for the women, for their children that they have to subject to drug trafficking, sex trafficking, labor trafficking. All these things are happening as people are crossing the border because they believe that they have something better here that they really don't. You know, they're coming here and they really don't have a way to make an ends meet, and so they end up being vulnerable to trafficking. I think if we can bring awareness, and the reason I support Kari is because she does bring that awareness. You know, she does bring that understanding, and she really helps and wants to make a difference with this. And so, you know, for me, it was as simple as those words, you know, I can change your life. And if we can really highlight to the moms, the children, even the men that are crossing the border, that life here in America may not end up being as good as they think, or it may not be better than what they're experiencing on the other side, I think that can make a world of a difference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really quickly, if you don't mind, what do you think Joe Biden and the federal government needs to do to stop this?
I think processing just needs to be made a lot more thorough. You know, right now with the open border situation, it's so easy for people to just come across with very little information, you know, with very little anything, you know. So at the end of the day, just being able to correctly process people, make sure that they're ending up in a safe space and not just in a random city like we mentioned today, and not just ending up in a place where they can be vulnerable to trafficking would make all the difference. And it all starts with just awareness.
And you're one of the lucky ones who've escaped that.
Yes.
And I see you're expecting.
Yes.
So this is a beautiful story of a survivor, but many don't survive, and many are still trapped in that. And we don't want this problem in America. We don't want this kind of tragedy in America. And so thank you so much for sharing your story. I appreciate it.
You.
I want to introduce one more speaker, and this is an amazing woman. And so many women are just like her, because every day their husbands go off to work trying to do the best they can at the Border Patrol. They're frustrated with what's happening on Joe Biden's border. They're frustrated because in some ways they can't do the job they were hired to do. In some ways they're just processing people. They know this problem can't continue, and they can't speak to the media, but their wives can. So we have Norma Darnell here to speak. And Norma, do you want to come on up? Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you. There you go, hon.
I feel so honored to speak to you today because, as Kari mentioned, my husband and many other husbands don't have a voice. And I feel so honored that today I can give them a voice. So I have a ministry for moms, and a lot of the moms, their spouses, work as Border Patrol agents. And I want to give them a voice to some statements that they have made. So one husband has said that he feels with this border crisis as if he is breaking the oath that he made to this country. Another spouse mentioned that he feels that he is assisting in potential child trafficking, and he is assisting in that rather than protecting. My husband entered this career because he has a passion for this country, and he has a passion to protect people. And now he feels as if he's lost the ability to do so. A lot of agents are passionate about riding horses, and now they're in the processing center, hour after hour processing migrants. They feel as if a lot of these migrants are being coached. They're coming in with laminated cards of sponsors, and I say that with full confidence, sponsors. And I just want to say that the reason why I support Kari Lake is because she truly understands the border crisis, and you give us a voice. You speak for us, you speak for me, you speak for my husband when I can't do that, but you do. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate that. Oh boy, guys, it doesn't have to be this way, okay? And we know that whatever side of the Republican Party you're on, and there's a few different factions of it, and I think independents and Democrats, many not all, but many Democrats even think this is out of control. It's not working. You know, I think about when Senator McCain was alive and he walked along this wall and he said, build the dang fence. And you got President Trump saying, build the wall. Republicans know we have to have a barrier and we have to have a process that does not allow people to pour across our border illegally. We have a legal immigration process. And what's happening right now is putting every single American at risk. Every single American is less safe because of Joe Biden's border, and it's got to stop. And I am vowing to the people of this great country that I will put an end to it and help put an end to it. So I want to just cover a couple of stats, and then we can do some questions. This year, nearly 400,000 illegal people entered illegally across the Tucson sector. That's about 68% of the population of Tucson. 150% increase from last year, and last year we saw a huge increase over the year before. The problem is getting worse and worse and worse. It's getting so bad that we're actually seeing some of the Democrats who voted every step of the way for an open border are now starting to panic in an election year and saying, oh my gosh, we're going to get blamed for this, and they rightfully so should be blamed for it. And now they're in a panic about what to say and what to do. And they should be ashamed of themselves for allowing this to happen to our great country. There's a lot of mothers behind me who are fed up. They're busy raising their kiddos. This morning, many of them had to pack their kids' lunches, get them off to school, and they drove down here a 3-hour drive. Some of them it was a 4-hour drive. They want America to know that the mothers of this country are fed up watching our country being overtaken by this crisis that was created by Joe Biden. And so I ask that we continue to put the pressure on. I ask that journalists, I know, Ben, you're doing this already, many of you are, start covering this story with the intensity of what the problem really is. And that means every single day, putting the pressure on Washington, D.C., putting the pressure on the lawmakers that we have there to do something to end it immediately. And with that, I will open it up to some questions if you have any.
I've got a couple.
Okay, Ben.
So you see what's happening in Washington, but here in Arizona, 2020, I don't know if you want to talk about the 2022 election, Beth, how bad even the governor now is. They've taken DPS off the line. Yep. But the other question, as a senator, you would have the power to impeach. We just saw a failed attempt against Mayorkas in the House. Would you support that? And who else needs to be impeached? Who else needs to be removed from office?
Well, I think Joe Biden needs to be impeached for a variety of different reasons. You could talk about what's happening on the border and what he did with an incredible policy that President Trump had put into play. We had the safest border. I covered this border, covered Arizona for 27 years as a fair and honest journalist. I'd never seen it more safe than under President Trump. On day one, hour one, Joe Biden pulled back that policy and with a wink and a nod, in effect, told the world to come on over illegally. And we've seen the result of that, millions upon millions upon millions of people. And so elections have consequences, and dishonest, corrupt elections have even worse consequences. I think Joe Biden needs to go. You could impeach him on the border. You could impeach him what he did in Afghanistan, that outrageous pullout of Afghanistan that put everybody at risk and put our military-grade weaponry, ammunition into the hands of terrorists around the globe. There's so many ways you could impeach him for the corruptness of his family business, which is a business of bribery and kickbacks and payoffs. And so I think we have a bunch of reasons to get that man out of the White House, but the entire administration is corrupt. And so I agree. We need a change, and that change is going to come in November of 24 when Americans, independents, Republicans, and I think even a bunch of disaffected Democrats are going to show up to vote and vote these people who are incompetent and compromised out of office. Sir.
Hi, Jose Ignacio Castañeda with the Arizona Republic. You mentioned that drugs are flowing across the border. What would you say to the fact that the majority of fentanyl is seized at ports of entry and then at interior checkpoints by Border Patrol?
I don't care how it's coming in. Some of it is coming in through ports of entry. A lot of it is coming in elsewhere. A lot of it's coming in other areas that aren't ports of entry. We don't want the most deadly drug we've ever seen coming across our border. These mothers don't want to have to worry when they send their kiddos off to school. In elementary school, across this country. In elementary school, we used to have aspirin and Band-Aids. Now they have Narcan. We don't care where it's coming in, but we don't want it. And we don't have to have this happen. And under President Trump, the numbers were way down. And President Trump and I and many other Republicans want to go after the CCP for providing the ingredients. We want to go after the narco-terrorists for mixing it up and sending it across. It's coming in packages that look like candy. A child wouldn't know the difference. I sent my son off to college, and I know that many of these women have had this conversation with their children. Don't ever take a pill. If you didn't come from your doctor and your pharmacy, don't ever take a pill, even if it looks like a real one. I remember the conversation I had with a mother who was in tears. She's raising her 6-year-old grandson. Her 22-year-old daughter took a half of what she thought was a Xanax pill and was dead. I think of the story of Clark and Karen Griffin, whose son Tyler took what he thought was a Tylenol 3. He'd broken his wrist, and he never woke up. This is happening to hundreds of thousands of people. We're losing a young generation. I don't care if the pills are coming in a backpack, across a wide open border, if they're coming through a port of entry. We want it stopped. Joe Biden doesn't care to stop it. He doesn't care to take on the CCP. He's buddies with the cartels. And President Trump is going to stop this, and it's going to start on day one.
What solutions are you proposing to as senator?
Well, thank you for asking. As you know, when I was running for governor, I had the most comprehensive, aggressive border plan, and we're taking many of those ideas, and we're going to push them in the Senate. For starters, we need to immediately fund and make sure that the border wall is completed. We know it works. Right here in town, you don't see people running across. They do where there isn't a border wall. We want to make sure we have enough judges hired, ready to process these people right away, give them court dates, have the court dates immediately, because we know that 95% of the people reading a card saying they're seeking asylum, they're fraudulent asylum claims, and they can't stay. And I have a 10-point plan that I encourage everybody who's watching to go to karilake.com and take a look at that. We need to support our Border Patrol agents so that they can do their job. They can live up to the oath they took so that they don't feel like they're contributing to the downfall of America, but they're instead contributing to protecting America. So I encourage you to go there. You can get the entire plan. It's right there on my website. I encourage people to take a look at it. I want to help support getting back in play the policies President Trump had. And we have laws that are already on the books if we just start following them. We don't need to make a whole bunch of new laws. We got to start following the laws that are already on the book. And Joe Biden's not interested in doing that.
Kari, is Adam from K-Gun, is asylum something that you think should be part of immigration reform?
I don't think we need immigration reform. We got plenty of laws. We just don't want people pouring across our border illegally. Our immigration plan's fine. We can maybe tweak it a little bit. But we have got to change the asylum laws. Right now, you can seek asylum if you're leaving a country that has elevated crime. Well, I'll tell you what, this country has elevated crime. People are pouring across saying they're fleeing a country with high crime. I got news for them. You're entering into a country with high crime. And so we need to change those asylum laws so that that's not a reason that you can seek asylum. We don't have the capacity to take on the world's problems. We need this world, we need frankly 190 countries with 190 strong borders, with 190 duly elected representation and politicians who are truly representing the people, 190 safe countries with great unique culture. And when the whole world's fallen apart, going to hell in a handbasket, you see this problem. And Joe Biden has invited this problem into our country.
There's, migrants being dropped off in Nogales every day. There's been 13,000 since September, I think it was, and some of them are migrant mama bears who bring their kids and they want a better future. Do you relate to that? I know you said you.
Of course I do. I think this is a catastrophe, what we're seeing on the border, because they're being told a lie. They're being told that you come here and life's going to be better, and I don't believe it will be. It's dangerous for the children. We know that women are being sex trafficked, raped, and we don't know, frankly, that these children who are showing up with adults, whether they're women or men, if they're really their mother or their aunt. We don't know that. And I applaud President Trump. The media lied so horribly about what he was doing. He was trying to protect the children at the border. He was doing DNA testing to make sure that those children coming across with an adult, that there was a relation there, that they were related, so that they weren't being sent into sex trafficking. I've seen The Sound of Freedom. I know many of these mothers behind me have. It's tragic what's happening to these children. And my message to moms who are thinking of coming across this open border, do not come across the border. And people will not be staying. 90% of these asylum claims are fraudulent, and they can't stay. So don't come across, don't take the dangerous trek, don't risk your life, don't contribute to the cartels. Stay where you are, and don't come across this border.
What was the spelling of Sydney's first name?
Of who's
Sydney?
first?
What was her first? How do you spell it? Was it S-I?
Sydney who?
The,
Cindy.
Yeah,
sorry, I was like Sydney.
Yeah.
C-I-N-D-Y.
Oh, Cindy.
Sorry,
Okay.
I thought you said Sydney.
Oh, sorry. Could I ask Norma a question?
A what question?
Norma, can I ask Norma a question?
Absolutely. Norma, come on in.
So you said your husband was a Border Patrol agent?
Yes.
So in Cochise County last week, one of the agents died riding an ATV chasing after somebody who illegally crossed the border. What is just the concern for you and other wives of agents who see their husbands leave every day?
That is a great question. Thank you, because we do talk about that. Our concern as wives is, number one, remember that all the agents feel as though they're not protecting their country anymore. That ability to truly stop drugs and crime from coming across the border, they've lost that ability. So first of all, we're discouraged seeing them discouraged, that they no longer love their job because they feel they can't fulfill their job. Secondly, our other concern is that because they aren't able to secure the border, because of course they're processing migrants, drugs and criminals passing through the border, with that increase, crime will therefore increase as well. So.
And I know that like many wives of law enforcement, you are always concerned when you kiss your husband goodbye in the morning. I'm sure that you know there's risks involved with his job.
Yes, then there's those risks as well. Yes, they are risking their lives in a sense. So, yes. And also, my children understand a little bit, they're 4 and 5, a little bit about what their dad does. And so sometimes they say, like, Dad, you're coming back, right?
That's something a child shouldn't have to even think about. Thank you, Norma. Really quickly, I want to. You talked about I think it was you with the USA Today or the Republic. Many drugs are coming across the port of entry. We're empowering the cartels right now. The more power we give them, the more money they're allowed to make by trafficking human beings. Trafficking human beings, the more money they make, the more power they have, the more drugs are able to get across any method they want. Any method they want. We've seen a video where drones are dropping drugs across, mules are carrying drugs across, they're coming across. We are empowering these cartels. They're ruthless, ruthless people. And I don't think anybody in this country wants to see them be empowered.
Kari,
Ben.
You mentioned.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to go first?
J.D. Wallace with 13 out of Tucson. We've heard other politicians visit the border from other parts of the country talk about shutting down the border, trying to secure the country. We also have, though, the mayor of Nogales talking about how much we depend on cross-border trade. We have concerns about fentanyl coming over. How do we both secure it while also making sure we don't penalize the communities
Legal
that
traffic.
depend on
Right.
the border?
Oh boy, it's windy. That's a great question, and I want to see legal business. I want to see legal business flowing across the border. I think that's great. That's healthy. But we have such a crisis right now, and if we had a president who had a clue, who gave a damn about our country, and sent a very strong message to the world: you're not welcome, and stopped the illegal trafficking of human beings, came down on the cartels, then we could have our Border Patrol doing a lot more work. We'd have Norma's husband doing a lot more work, at these border patrol crossings right here, like the Dennis DeConcini one that we're at the port of entry where we are right now. But we're short-staffed on all of this. And so I support shutting down the illegal activity. The president could do it just as President Trump started to do it immediately. It's not impossible. This is not, rocket science. This is basic stuff. And I heard one Democrat saying it's very difficult, it's very complicated, we can't do it. No, it's real simple. Finish the wall. Let the Border Patrol do their jobs. Come down on the cartels. Pressure the Mexican government like President Trump did. He did that with tariffs. He said, you want to see tariffs start Monday morning, or do you want to help us on the other side of the border? And you start making phone calls to all of these countries around the world and say, stop sending your people. Stop sending your people. There'll be consequences. But unfortunately, we have a feeble weakling, an incompetent, and more horrifyingly, a compromised old man sitting in the White House, who actually has blood on his hands for what's happening. These children who are dying, the children who are being sex trafficked, the women who are being sex trafficked, the people who are being trafficked across this country. It's Joe Biden and this horrible administration's fault. And we have to put an end to it. We have to put an end to it in November of next year when we go to the polls and vote like our lives depend on it, our children's lives depend on it, and this great republic depends on it. Because we're not going to have a country, people, if this continues much longer.
Finishing the border, hiring more Border Patrol agents or even more CBP along the border to enforce it, it's going to cost more money. Are you able, as a senator, to get that to happen while we have, right now we have Democrats in control of the Senate. We've seen some gridlock right now when it comes to funding the country. So trying to get something like that to get through Congress, could that be a challenge?
Well, this is a great question, and one of the reasons we have to elect Republicans into office. We've got to elect Republicans into office because we need to have the majority in the Congress and the White House as well. We need the House, we need the Senate, and we need the White House. And this Senate race that I'm in is critical. I'm the only mother running for Senate in Arizona. These other two don't get it. Not only are they part of the problem, they've voted to not secure the border for an open border, they don't have the understanding of what it is to be a mother and have the thought of losing a child to the fentanyl poisoning, of having to deal with some of this. So we've got to have a majority, and we will get it done. Listen, we're sending we're freeing up $200 billion for Iran so that they, with Joe Biden's and Obama's plan, to fund terrorism. The $200 billion that we freed up by getting rid of the sanctions on Iran, it's not going to the people of Iran. They're struggling. It's going to fund terror around the globe. And with one little phone call, all they have to do is activate a terror cell inside of America. In addition, we've sent close to $200 billion to Ukraine. I think we can afford to support our Border Patrol and to finish the wall. We can find some money from where Joe Biden is paying back all of the bribes, and we can actually support, rebuild, and strengthen America. We got to be America first, or we're going to be America lost.
Kari, you mentioned two things really important. The cartels not just control in Mexico, but they have a lot of control in America too. You have politicians in America who I believe are paid off by the cartels. But you also mentioned, and you can speak to this probably more than anyone, the complicity of the media in America in propagating some of these lies and pushing this. How concerned are you that the cartels already have that influence in the United States? And how big a focus will that be on you as a senator to weed that out?
Corruption is so high in this country. The level of corruption is unlike anything I've ever seen or anything I could have ever imagined. The cartels have complete operational control most of our border. I mean, they're controlling the show here, which is sad, which is horrible. It doesn't have to be that way, and the media is complicit in it. I mean, I just did an interview, and many of you may have seen it, with some liberals in the media, and I was describing what's happening on the border, and they're acting as if it's make-believe. They're acting as if these images that Ben has thankfully risked his life and put out to the world are fake. They need to come down and cover the border, but they won't, because they know what they see here is going to shatter the false narrative. And that's a nice word for saying, a nice phrase for lies. The truth at the border will shatter the lies that they've told to their viewers, the few they have left. And once they shatter those lies, their viewers will never forgive them and walk away. And so it's up to us to tell the true story of what's happening on our border, here in Arizona, across our southern border. It can't go on much longer. There will come a day when I think all Americans recognize that it's beyond tragic and it will destroy our country. I just hope it's not too late. And I thank you all for being here. Let's do, what do you think, one more question, Colton? Anybody else have a question? George, good to see you.
Good.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much. There's a lot of things that concern, like everybody was just talking about the media. It's not always only the media as well. Like I travel overseas and I just got back from overseas. There's a lot of people are infiltrated through the people, like through government officials, through people coming in by planes, just to let you know, to the United States, not only through our borders. And what are you going to do about that? Like, are they going to do something about it, or just people just going to land at JFK and land in all over the airports?
Oh, you mean they arrive and they overstay their visa?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we've got millions upon millions doing that as well. You know, it's gotten so bad. Why would somebody even go through the legal process? That's how bad it's gotten. The people who go through the legal process to come here, who want to become citizens, they go through, it takes years and a lot of money and a lot of work. And then they watch this, people overstaying their visas. And we're finding out that people are getting told they get the free phone, the free airfare. They're put up in hotels, healthcare, clothing, food, and a court date 12 years from now that they won't show up for. Why would they? This is just untenable. It's not working. We all know it. The media knows it. And we have to start covering it honestly. And I applaud you for being here. The fact that you're here tells me that you're willing to cover this honestly, and many of you have been. And we need to put pressure on the other journalists out there that this is a story that is number one important issue for Americans. It's affecting even people in the economy. When people are working hard, moms and dads out there with one full-time job and a part-time job to make ends meet. Now we're having millions of people coming across illegally. That's going to keep wages down. It is a nightmare any way you slice it, and it doesn't have to be this way. Is that good? You think we've got everything? Did everybody get a question in?
Still got a primary to get through. I mean,
I'm feeling very confident that that I will win this race. I'm feeling very confident because I understand the people of this state, and the people of this state know that I'm a fighter, and I will go to D.C. I don't want to be buddy with the lobbyists. You can't bribe me, you can't blackmail me, and I'm going to go to Washington D.C. and represent every mom, every family, every Arizonan. I think there's some moms back here who might even be Democrat. When you join our Moms for Kari group, I don't ask what your party affiliation is. They join because they know that they've got a mom in me who's going to go fight for them. A lot of these lovely ladies back here have little ones. They can't jump into politics right now. They can volunteer, they can help where they can, but they are doing the most important job in America, which is being a mom and raising our young children up. And my children, thankfully, are a little bit older, and God freed me up to get into politics right now. And we don't have a lot of time to save our country. And I'm gravely worried about the direction things are going. And I'm willing to sacrifice everything I've got to win this election, go to Washington, D.C., and help clean this mess up. So I want to, real quick, before we leave, I want to introduce our youngest member, our newest member of the Moms for Kari, and her husband. They're both on our team. This is Alex, Nickel, and Andorra. And I thought it would be great to talk about it. They met on the campaign, and now they're married. They're a young family, and we got a baby on board here, and a little boy. And so I wanted you guys to talk just quickly about why you're now in the Moms for Kari group and what this means to you.
We joined the campaign last cycle because we're concerned as young people about our generation's future in the way our country is going under Joe Biden. And Kari is a candidate who is fighting for us, fighting for our generation, who's fighting for children across Arizona and across America. And obviously we met on the campaign, and now we're married and expecting a baby. And you know, we know as young people that raising a family was never hard or never easy, but it's been made exponentially hard by Joe Biden's border crisis, enabled by Kyrsten Sinema, Ruben Gallego, and career politicians in Washington, D.C. And we know that Kari Lake is going to get to D.C. and work with President Trump, hopefully we get him back in the White House, to end this crisis, end the fentanyl pouring across, end human trafficking and sex trafficking across our border, and put an end to this crisis once and for all. So that's why we're still working for Kari Lake, still supporting Kari Lake, and we're doing everything we can to get her in the United States Senate in 2024.
Thank you so much. Love you guys. Love those kids. I call them kids because they are young and they still have hope for the American dream. And I still have hope for the American dream. I want my kids to have a better life than I did. Right now, I don't think that's possible. But I know if we get some fighters in Washington, D.C., who in the vision of our founding fathers are citizens who step forward, not politicians, not career politicians, but citizens who step forward and help out, and then return to their private lives, that we can save this great republic. So I just want to thank you all for being here. I'm looking forward to the campaign trail because we're going to talk about a lot of the issues, but I'm really looking forward to the election, getting some quality America First people in Washington, D.C. and helping to save this great republic. And thank you so much. And I wish the weather would have been a little nicer, but I'm glad you all came out anyway. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you guys. Oh my gosh.